Some folks will like you and some that just won't. Some that stay real and some that just don't. Trying to fit in will only take you so far. You'll never find home trying to change who you are. So don't spend your whole life trying to be what you ain't. Can't hide your heart with a new coat of paint. You think they'll accept you, I promise they can't. It's just be who you are, forget what they think. So just be who you are and forget what they think.
Welcome to Vet with a Mic, content driven by veterans issues. So today we are talking with a female vet by the name of Jenna, who is going to, hey, how are you? Who is going to tell a little bit about what her life in the uniform was like, and then we're going to talk about some exciting projects that she's working on currently. So Jenna, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's so awesome to be here on this fine December day. How are you doing?
Well, I say this, it's getting a little repetitive at this point, but being a sailor as well, you'll probably get the joke. I say I can't complain because, our old saying within the Navy, only a happy sailor is a complaining sailor, so to speak. So I'm trying to go against the grain and change that about myself. But you're right. It is it's a rather dreary December day here. What about there?
Yeah, it's kind of windy, a little more windy, but I don't mind the cold.
Yeah, no, not me, man. Let it drop below 60, I cry. Just like a little
Really?
baby. Yeah.
Where are you originally from?
Well, Tennessee, I am.
Okay, that makes sense
And you would
then.
think that I would, we get some weather sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah,
Probably not
that's
what you're
true.
used to. So let's talk a little bit about your time in the uniform. How did you end up in the Navy?
So I'm from Wisconsin.
Oh, that explains it.
And
All right.
yeah, I'm from a very small town, very rural. Like you had to drive an hour to even go to like a major chain restaurant. There's nothing up there. So I wasn't really exposed to a lot of opportunities, and I knew that I wanted to, go out there and see the world, and what better way than to join the Navy.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you, because I'm from a small town in East Tennessee, and after my experiences in the uniform, it was really hard to go back home again, and especially to connect with people that I grew up with. Did you experience the same?
I did. There are some people I've had to part with,
Mm,
just because just fair. You just go out and you learn, and you realize that the world is so much different than how it was painted to you
yeah.
growing up, and you kind of have resentment even to some people that taught you different, or people in
Yeah.
your circle that kind of had you, say, "Oh, you're crazy if you want to go do that." No one like close with me, but like
Yeah.
teachers and others. So yeah, I can relate
Yeah.
to that definitely.
Yeah. I make the joke all the time that going on vacation from where I'm from, most people go down to Panama City Beach in Florida, and that is the perfect destination for vacation time. And my last duty station was in Sicily, so I was hanging out in Taormina, the beautiful beaches of Sicily. Panama City Beach just doesn't do it for me as much anymore. And like I said, it's just those type of experiences really shift your worldview. It's a paradigm shift for you. It's hard not to, your permanent frame of reference is going to always be a little bit different after those experiences. Where did you get to go in the uniform, by the way? Any exotic destinations?
So on deployment, I got to hit a couple ports. We went to Croatia and we went to Greece, and then we went
Mm,
to Dubai a few times in Bahrain.
mm,
Uh, but yeah, those experiences definitely do change how you view the world, and you
yeah,
realize just how small your small town is.
yeah, right. So when you were in Greece, did you go to Crete?
Yes, Yeah, that's where we
That's my
went.
favorite place in the world outside the United States. I
Lovely.
love Crete. It is beautiful. Like the food's awesome. The people are warm. Like it's a
Yeah,
beautiful, like,
lots of fun people.
oh man, it is awesome. Like that's what I'm saying. It's just your worldview completely changes after you see the
Hmm.
beautiful, islands of Greece. So, so you said, well, we were talking before that you were in. Wow, man, I'm gonna butcher this because I know it's like something to do with the weather, right?
Yes, meteorology.
Right. All right. Oh, so, but it's called something else, right?
Saved
Like
you.
aviation. What is it called?
Meteorology and oceanography as
Oh,
well.
okay.
Not
All
as
right.
much, but I did a little.
Oh, okay. But what's the rate actually called though? Aviation something?
Aerographer's mate.
Oh, there we go. All right. I knew that started with an A.
Yeah, yeah. We're also called unicorns because only like I want to say like 1,400 in the Navy at a time. It's a very small group, so a lot of us know each other.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was that? Did you enjoy that job while you were in?
I did like it. It's not really my specialty, nothing I was super interested in because
Mm,
one of the reasons I didn't re-enlist is because I would have to go to a C school, which was like a really long time. I want to say almost 8 to 10 months
mm,
that you have to go to training and almost like have a degree in meteorology to go back into the fleet with. And yeah, I just wasn't that interested in it to do
yeah.
that.
Well, I understand. I mean, oftentimes whenever you're sitting there trying to pick a job, you have no idea really what that job
Oh
entails,
no.
right? So how many years did you spend in? Wait, you went in, and I think you said 2013, right? And then
Yes,
you
to
got out
2017.
2017. So what was your 2017 like? Or your 27 into 2018, shall I add?
Yeah, that was a tough year
Mm,
because I was going back and forth on getting out, going back in. You
mm,
know, I just got back from on deployment that summer of 2016. So the whole time until like December of that year, I was just like, I don't know what I want to do. And then I made second class and I was like,
mm,
now I really don't know what I want to do. But I ultimately decided that it was best for me to get out and kind of pursue something else that I would be more interested in and go to school. And I was dating my now husband at the time,
mm,
and he got orders to Pax River. And
mm,
then I had to decide, do I want to go to Mississippi or stay, like move with him? And I ultimately decided to go to a college that was close to him in Pax River. And that was tough. That was a really
yeah.
tough year, getting out because you have to do the ACT, you have to
Hmm.
do tests to get into school, apply to
Hmm.
school. Also, not having been in school in so long,
Mm,
while also planning financially, which is a huge part of it. You have
yeah.
to make sure you're set up and, um, just planning a move and all of
Yeah.
that. And on top of that, I found out I was pregnant like a few weeks into school starting. So not only was I dealing with kind of the identity crisis of who am I without the Navy, I was also
Mm,
like, who am I as a mother?
right.
It was like double identity crisis. And then I'm surrounded by college kids because I went
Mm,
to a very traditional school. Like everyone was on campus, came in
right.
when they were 18. So I was in these freshman classes with kids who were just worried about partying. And,
Right.
I mean, of course, I would have been like that too, but it was just, I had no one to relate to
Yeah. How old were you
at
whenever
all.
you went?
When I joined, I was 19. So I was about 23 when I got out.
Okay. So that's
Yeah.
so not too much of an age disparity, but just a whole ton of life
Yeah.
experience disparity, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was that was tough.
Yeah. I spent quite a few years in academia, obviously going all the way to the master's level. And I went in at 30 though. So you want to think you felt completely disconnected. I really
Right.
did, because I had spent, a few years before I went into the uniform, kind of living the adult life. And then I went into the uniform for 5 years. by the time I came out, I was a pretty worldly 30. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
And, sitting next to somebody who had been out of high school for, maybe at that point a few months, it was quite a stark difference between the two of us. And most of the time, I think it was funny. I think people looked at me and just kind of went, "What happened to that guy? Something bad must have happened. Why is he here?" Right? "You must have just got
Yeah.
out of prison." And I would make the joke like, "Well, kind of. The military kind of is a prison."
Yes,
But
definitely.
yeah, it's funny. It's funny how uniform, no pun intended, some of our experiences can be with life after the uniform. So you
hmm
went to school, and what did you get your training in while you were at the university?
I went for public policy, which is a mix of political science and economics.
Hmm.
Um,
So the easy
yeah.
stuff, huh? Yeah.
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 I mean, I thought it was fun. I loved school. I learned so much. Like even like even having that world knowledge from the Navy, I felt like I
Mm.
learned so much in school and really, found who I am as a person
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
further.
I know I've made that joke several times. Like I needed to find myself, like I was lost. But I felt the same way. I had a different perspective about school after my time in the uniform. I enjoyed learning, even about things that I didn't
hmm
expect to enjoy uh, learning about, like art history, for example. I thought that was just going to be a total like waste of time, and then I got in and I was like, wait a minute, this is pretty interesting. Like this is a different perspective than I expected to have. And I
Yeah.
think that maybe that's just after the uniform, you go into a classroom setting and there's a certain thirst for knowledge that you just didn't
Yeah.
have before your time in the uniform. I don't mean to speak for
hmm
you, but that's definitely the way I felt.
No,
Right. Yeah.
that's definitely because, like I said, in high school, I kind of, took on the role of like, oh, there's the smart kids and then there's me. And then in college, it was like I had this confidence, maybe from the
Yeah.
military. I was a little more confident. And
Yeah.
also, it's like my pay depends on this.
Right.
If I
Yeah.
fail out, I'm not getting a paycheck. So I got to take this seriously.
Different set of pressures, I suppose. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
before we started, you talked about a really cool opportunity that you had coming out of college. Can we talk a little bit about that?
So it was actually my summer before my senior year.
Okay.
I did an internship program, so I did get credits for it. And that was at the House Committee on Veterans Affairs in Congress, which
Mm,
was really cool. I got to go up to DC every day and, see how the bills are formed. I got to see the lobbyists,
mm,
interact with not really the chairman himself, but I got to go to all the hearings and see the policy that was put forth and who was really fighting for it and
mm.
who wanted to make that change.
Yeah. So I would imagine that that would kind of be a bit of a mixed blessing because you get to see behind the curtain, so to speak, but then you also get to see behind the curtain and you know exactly how some shallow the efforts can be when it comes
hmm
to addressing issues within our community. So I don't want to put you on the spot, obviously, because we don't need to talk about necessarily those type of experiences.
hmm
But how did you feel as a veteran in the room working with these people?
They did make me feel important that I was a veteran, even
Mhm.
though I was an intern. Whenever I was introduced or someone came in the office, they would always say, "Here's our intern who's also a veteran." They're really
Mm,
proud to have a veteran, and they're very proud to have any of the staff that are veterans.
mm,
They like them to be veterans, and because that's the most important voice in the room and in those
yeah,
spaces. Yeah, but like you said, seeing behind the curtain, there was a few things that weren't so pretty,
yeah,
and luckily veterans issues aren't really like a Republican Democrat thing,
right.
but I watched some people make it that,
I
you know,
see.
and that was pretty disheartening. But overall, it was a great experience, and I learned that that is not where I want to be if I want
Yeah.
to make a change,
Yeah.
which is where you think you would want to be.
Right. You know, a lot of the times we talk on here about veterans kind of being front and center. We have skin in the game, so to speak, and I think that we need to take more of a position of prominence within the society because we have some very unique perspectives, like we just kind of talked about. We know how the rest of the world lives. We know how truly lucky we are to be an American and how great our society actually is. And I think
Yeah.
those perspectives uh, are vital in times whenever there's a lot of stress or conflict, because we sometimes we lose perspective of just how great Western civilization generally is, but how great the American experience truly is. And
Hmm.
veterans, like we've said, they have skin in the game. They have ultimately signed the check, so to speak. And I think that the society, generally speaking, could really benefit from the veteran perspective. And why not put us in positions of leadership? Why not? I mean, like I
Hmm.
said, we have those unique experiences that are really necessary for leadership positions.
Absolutely. And, veterans really do have a lot of representation in politics,
Mm,
and we're actually overrepresented. But
mm,
it's like we have this majority representation. I actually have a breakdown of like how many men to women are in Congress,
mm.
how many Democrats to Republicans, and it's pretty interesting to look at the data and see where we're even more overrepresented. And um,
Is that
even with
at the national level? You mean?
Yes, yeah, I like kind of broke down everything in
Yeah,
Congress because I couldn't find it online. So I said, I'm gonna crunch these numbers myself and
yeah,
figure out what it is. I'll share that post with you.
sure.
And but it's still even with that power behind us, we still have issues. And I know there's like a lot of not to bring yeah, I'll bring up the VA. There's a lot of there's a lot of issues with the VA itself.
Yeah. No, I mean we talk about the VA often here. Um, because I said this numerous times at this point, but the VA is a system and it's made up of people. Some people are good at their job, some people are not good at their job, and
Hmm.
some people have bad days. And you may interact with somebody within that system and that be your sole interaction with them.
Yeah.
But on whole, we have to be the agent of change within the VA system. We have to
Hmm.
utilize the resources that are available to us and interact with the VA system. Otherwise, things are not going to change. We have to be our own advocates in that regard and interact with them and act as our own quality assurance for the VA. Yeah, that's kind of what we talk a lot about here. I probably
Yeah,
harp
and
on it a lot.
I mean, honestly, that's a big ask, right?
Mm,
Not everyone is going to take the time. And, even though there is so many complaints, the system itself is kind of broken. One of the things I worked on when I was in Congress was kind of going through all the disciplinary actions of every
mm,
employee and seeing who got a little slap on the wrist and who got fired. And
mm.
honestly, the higher up you were, the more likely you were to get a early retirement for doing something that was very corrupt.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, obviously, that's not that surprising.
no.
Bureaucracy has its, well, it's, I would say they're bugs, but they're probably features at this point. And it's not really that surprising. But I would say, though, for us at the street level, us at the peon level, the only way for us to really see any push from the VA is because last data that I looked at, only about 40% of the people who were in uniform actually interact with the VA system. So
It's
that's
true.
about 60% of the population from all of the veteran identity don't utilize the VA for services. Well,
Hmm.
when you were only talking about less than half of the entire veteran population that utilize it, it's easier for them to get away with shit, so to speak, because there's just
Hmm.
not as many eyeballs that are in the system paying attention to what's going on. And what I find a lot that happens a lot is I'll ask a veteran, well, have you got set up as a patient down there at the VA yet? And I'll hear this, no, screw that. No way. Well, why?
Yeah.
Well, because I've heard how they are. But if you went down there, no. Mm-mm. So you've never been to the VA, but what are you basing that off of? Just things I've heard, man. And we as veterans are pretty messy too. We're fallible creatures as well. Maybe we were in the wrong. Maybe we were the one that didn't get something done that day because, we were in a bad mood or having a bad day. And then because negative things tend to be a lot stickier than positive interactions, that person who has the negative interaction goes and tells like 20 people about how terrible they were just treated. And that just spreads like wildfire. And it's to our detriment, though, that we don't utilize the resources that are available to us. So that's one of the reasons why we do talk about the VA, is so that people can inform themselves, or at least form their own opinion about the VA.
Mm-hmm.
Go into it, see how you like it before just listening to some of the, let's just say, the more salty of us that often spread the word about their negative experience.
Absolutely. I want to just say two things. So actually,
Sure.
that's when being a woman veteran is a lot better, because there's not as many as us, and we do tend to get treatment faster than males who are trying to get help at the VA. Like both of my pregnancies were through the VA, and I have a lot of great things to say. Honestly, they really took care of me. They were awesome. But also sometimes when I try to get an appointment, it's like a month out
Sure.
before you can get an appointment. And I can see how that's discouraging to people, to just be like, I called once, they can't even see me for a month. So why wouldn't I go to my private insurance?
Yeah. So, for sure, if you're lucky to have private insurance, which I'd say a
That's
good
true.
chunk of us don't, but I kind of call it the rule of 4. And whenever I call into the VA, I'll get 3 people on the line that are just, sorry, I can't help you. Those types. And then till I get to the
That's
4th
hard to hear.
person. Yeah. And then until I get to the 4th person, and the 4th person will go, absolutely, I can help you. And so could have they. I don't know why they kept transferring you. And I just kind of tell people, just ride it out,
Yeah.
Don't let them discredit you by losing your temper and, having a meltdown on somebody, because all they're going to do is transfer you anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
You're not going to get anywhere by losing your temper with them.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned something that is a positive for being a woman from the service. Now let's talk about some of the negatives about being a female who has served the nation, because we've talked about this a little bit before. And I think it's something that may be a little bit more pernicious than people realize, is women don't get recognized for their service at the same rates that men do, generally speaking. So how do you feel about that? How do you feel about not being, I guess, thanked for your service at the same rates as some of the males?
It's hard for me to speak on that a little bit, because I am out there. I put myself out there as a woman veteran into the community, so I feel like I get a lot of those opportunities to be
Sure.
appreciated and recognized that others wouldn't. But and when we're out and like meeting new people, me and my husband, he always people ask him what he does, and then he'll always turn to me and be like, she's a veteran as well,
Right.
like, to like, and I've never gotten the like, oh, I knew it. People are always like,
Oh,
wow, you
really?
know it's never just like it's always like, oh wow, so you really did that. It depends where you
Oh,
are too.
yeah. You're tough, huh? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost like condescending and patronizing, right? Okay. I got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes it can be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
So,
really, oh, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say that's something that I kind of wanted to talk about too. Is it's one thing to kind of go through your own transition, but as we've talked about within another episode, going from service member to spouse is a uniquely challenging transition, but then
Hmm.
also having to be the primary support for somebody else that's in their transition as well, because you transitioned before him, right?
Hmm.
Right. So you had to almost usher him through his transition too, so that he could be prepared. And I say that and because that social support that we can render to each other, in the clinical literature, we kind of call that being an ambassador. And those who have transitioned, made the transition from the uniform earlier than another service member, not only just the person who is about to transition, they get the benefits of that wisdom, but the person who
Hmm.
is also rendering the support also gets the benefits. There's a psychological boost that they both get. So it's reciprocal.
Mm.
So I think that that's a unique perspective that you could kind of speak to, being the spouse who had transitioned, now helping your spouse transition. So what was that like for you?
I never thought of it like that, but that is so true that I also kind of benefited from that because it was also like all of my struggles were
Mm.
validated, as in
Yeah.
like it's a universal experience. It wasn't
Yeah.
just me at that point, having issues. It was something that we all go through. And that
Yeah.
was very you know, it was reassuring
Mm.
to see.
Yeah.
And a lot of what he went through because we weren't moving, he wasn't moving, we were staying in the same area and he's actually working on the same base.
Yeah.
But he also had just kind of like a loss of purpose. I remember him
Mm.
that kind of hit him a lot more than me, where he didn't feel like because he was in a few years longer than me,
Mhm.
and he kind of had that like this what makes me a good person, almost like I serve my country,
Yeah.
this is what's my purpose in life. And then with that gone,
Yeah.
he just kind of like,
I make that joke all the time. We go from this highly structured, social, cohesive kind of unit where it's like you have a purpose that you're all working towards the same mission to you're just another asshole walking around Walmart, you know?
yeah,
You're not
yeah.
you're not the same.
Hmm.
There's not the same recognition or even just team mentality that you have. And maybe that's something that maybe males disproportionately feel a little bit because that is a huge part of our identity is, our work life, can be really, and I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that sometimes men really internalize those ideas and to go without it, I've heard people sitting in your chair, so to speak, describe it as being a waste or a drain on society. That's how I've heard
Mm.
men describe their time after the uniform. Is that something he kind of spoke to? Is that he felt that loss of purpose and that maybe even he was, a drain now on you and his family?
I think if he wouldn't have luckily gotten a job right away, he
Mm,
could have definitely related to that. But he's still like, he's the only one in his family who went on to serve. So I feel like he
mm.
wasn't as even, kind of surface level to describe it, but it's special,
Yeah.
like he's not Nick in the military anymore. He's just Nick who works a regular
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because both of you guys are still in the military orbit, so to speak, right?
Hmm.
Because you said that you mentioned that you still work for the Department of Navy, correct? And
Yes.
you said he works on the base still, so I assume he
Yep.
probably is some civilian contractor of some
Yep.
stripe, right?
Exactly.
So, has there been much of a difference that you guys have seen since, now being a civilian, kind of in the military orbit? Is that surreal to see at all?
To see people who are still in, or just see the Navy as like
Like, well,
on the outside.
okay, so this is the way I would kind of feel, all right? And this is just me, right? It's like graduating from high school and then still going to like the same
Oh,
high
okay.
school. Cause it's like I'm not here anymore, but this is my job, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think I would feel like that if I was surrounded by Navy personnel, but where I'm at, it's all civilians. You know, I don't really deal with anyone in uniform except for like at very high levels. And,
Right.
you know, you always feel cool to be in the presence of like a captain or, you know, anyone of that higher rank. So,
Mhm.
but if I was like doing work on a ship, you know, I would feel like, yeah, I would feel like it, like, hey, I used to be one of you, you know, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, cool, like we care, you know?
Yeah. It's have you ever seen the movie Dazed and Confused, right? It's
Yes, yeah. If you
kind of
were
like a
like
Matthew
Matthew
McConaughey of
McConaughey
yeah, right. Yeah. Okay.
hanging
So
outside there.
so I think that's a great segue into what you do now, as far as your digital footprint, so to speak. You have started this group that is a way for veterans to kind of connect and relate to each other that's generation specific. And this is something that I find really cool and fascinating. So, will you tell everybody about what your digital persona, if you will, is now after the uniform?
Hi, everyone. I'm the Millennial Veteran. So, the Millennial Veteran started by us going to the Legion, the American Legion in town, and being surrounded by people. You know, there's definitely an age gap between 15 years between us and
Mhm.
the next age
Youngest,
of
yeah, the
people, that
youngest
next
guy that's been there.
youngest,
Yeah.
yeah, really. And then even bigger age gap. No,
Yeah.
sometimes some nights there, but you know, and I was like, we were kind of thinking, where are all the millennials? Where are all the millennial
Mm,
veterans? We're right by a military base. There's
right.
so many people around here who have served. Where are they? And I was kind of thinking to use the internet. What does everyone use? Facebook. Kind
Mhm.
of use that as a way to start a community and get people involved. And also, the really heart of why I made this was because I felt so lonely. I felt so
Mm,
isolated
yeah.
when leaving. And I just want people to know that that's normal. It is so
Yeah.
normal, and you're gonna feel even better. It may take a year, it may take 10 years, honestly,
Mhm.
but you're gonna find yourself, you're gonna find your you know, self beyond service
Yeah.
and your purpose almost, or
Yeah.
not even a purpose, but just your happiness.
Yeah. So, I we've talked about this a few times at this point now, but the military life is so structured that it really doesn't leave very much room at all for self-exploration, so to speak. So,
Mm,
I feel as if we go from the uniform where it's just like everything is mapped out for us to outside of the uniform and we just have this abundance of time. And it's like, well, what the hell do I do now? Like, what am I supposed to do with myself? I should
mhm.
get a hobby. What the hell is a hobby? Like, there are all
Yeah.
these things that we're just set adrift, so to speak. And you're right. Excuse me. You're right. I was pretty alienated and disconnected from just everybody around me. I lost that social cohesion, as we were talking about. I had these unique experiences that almost disconnected me from civilians because they had no idea of how to relate to me. I mean, I lived in
Mhm.
Europe for 3 years. What do you do with that whenever you're
Yeah.
talking to the guy
Wow.
down the street, right? So I really did not have any way of connecting with people. So what I kind of tried to do is I just sought out other veterans because our veteran culture, our military culture, there is some, let's just say, some common experiences that we all kind of have dealt with,
Mhm.
whether it's just leaving home and being somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's just something that people can relate to. So
Mhm.
it seems like that's what you kind of plugged into and you just built a structure around it of, hey, how can I facilitate the veteran identity? How can I help people connect from all the different geographical locations around in a way that's really cool for my generation, to quote
Mhm.
the Who, right? Right.
Yep, talking about.
Yeah. So it's funny though, the word millennial is so it's so misused and just it's almost used disparagingly now. And you just owned it, man. And I dig that because the word millennial just describes a series of years in which people were born. It's not like there's an ideology or some precise meaning that it is to be a millennial. But so how did you really execute that vision then? So I know you've got quite a large following on Instagram at this point, and I've interacted with you through the Facebook group. So explain the nuts and bolts of the Millennial Veteran.
The Facebook page is kind of it's just like for fun, you know, it really is a lot of memes, and I like to share, you know, just stories. Like I also have a blog. Again, I am just coming back from maternity leave, so I even took like a few months off of just creating content even. But a lot of it is just sharing common struggles and a lot of resource sharing, which is so important. I've come across so many people on there asking about VA loans, asking about how to use their GI Bill, and almost within 5 minutes, someone comments and, you know, helps them out. Or it can even be more specific, like, hey, there's a job opening here in Texas. Any veterans around who want this? You know, it's really cool to see people interact and help each other and, you know, get through or get help.
Yeah. So all of those resources that we kind of compile to one of the episodes I talk about veteran capital, and I think that we really need to kind of mobilize our own resources within the veteran identity and connect with people, because, you know, I make this analogy a lot. If you're stuck on the side of the road and you have a flat tire, well, let's just say for the sake of argument that you don't know how to change a flat tire. Knowing that you have 4 or 5 people that you can rattle off really quick that will come to your aid, that just immediately makes that situation a lot less stressful, right? And so then whenever they get there, then they can show you how to change a tire, and then you learn from that process too. So then you don't need somebody to come to your aid in the future, because you have gained informational social support from that interaction. And of course, this is kind of like the microcosm, but you can throw that to anything that life has to throw to you. You mentioned just being a relatively new mom. Hey, where's the good childcare in this area? And there will be people that will roger up to answer that stressor or that environmental demand for you. And that's synergistic in its nature. It actually makes the stressors you navigate not only less threatening, but it ups the likelihood that you're just going to be able to just jump right over all of those demands with ease. And I think that as a veteran, we don't do that. We don't mobilize those resources enough. We just kind of like end up segmenting off and using these kind of disjointed approaches to handle life after the uniform. But there is just so much power in mobilizing the social support elements that you have within the veteran identity itself. So I think this idea that you've came up with is just awesome, man. Just it's a great idea.
Thank you. And to say a little more to that, it does take people a while to even accept that identity as a veteran.
Yeah.
You know, some people are just like, oh, I'm not a veteran. Like I served a couple years, you know, I could go to the VA, but I'm just going to go back to what I did before. And kind of like not even embrace this, like, hey, you have a whole community at your disposal. You know, there are so many perks to being a veteran. And it just makes me sad when people just kind of erase that part of their life. And I think it also kind of harms them on the inside, because there's just like kind of a period of their life where they're not sure where to categorize it in your head,
right.
or what to do with it.
They haven't integrated that part into their life after the uniform. Because I can relate to that, because whenever I first got out, I was so over the military. I was almost like,
anything. You're just like, turn off.
Yeah, I don't like, oh, okay, whatever, that Joe Navy guy over there, motivator, like, you know. And it was, I think there's a certain grieving period, I'll just say, that you have to like let go. So I think that, to your point, the reason why the veteran identity may take a little time acclimating to is because it's a continuum. most people, whenever they hear the word veteran, they may conjure up a specific image of a type of person. Often they look like me, big, bald, white dude with a sleeve tattoo and like a beard. That's what they tend to conjure up, right? And the truth of the matter is that there's just such a diverse amount of experiences that you can have within the uniform. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
can do this high speed, low drag stuff and, you know, be in what you would consider to be more of the stereotype of what the veteran is. But then you can also be in administrative positions where you've never even deployed outside of the nation. And those experiences vary so widely between different job types and different branches that there is no overarching like prototype or model for what a veteran is. And I think just understanding that and knowing
Mm-hmm.
that whatever you may think of the veteran identity, 85% of all people within the uniform don't have combat experiences. Matter of
Mm-hmm.
fact, they're not even in combat jobs. So if you're using that as the standard to identify whether or not you're a veteran, you're doing yourself a disservice
Mm-hmm.
because that's a very small minority of people who have served that have these type of Hollywood portrayals, if you
Yes.
will, of
Mm-hmm.
what the uniform life is like.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like a lot of people, even when you go out there and you introduce yourself as a veteran, that's why you get some of those responses.
Mm,
And that's why you kind of get that, like, misunderstanding between
yeah,
what a veteran is. And a lot of that does come from like Hollywood portrayal or even books. It's who gets the attention, right?
right,
Someone
yeah,
who, like me, who did weather in the Navy, isn't gonna get that isn't going to get their story told, and that's not to take away from how incredible some of these stories are of
sure,
people who've sacrificed so much and, loved ones that have lost, people who served. But it just also goes to like show um, how people could be more mindful and just
mm,
understanding of what a veteran is.
yeah. And I think what you and I talked a little bit before about stereotypes and how the veteran identity experiences quite a bit of stereotype threat, in which we've talked about this on previous episodes, but just this internal strain that we feel at the thought of confirming a negative stereotype that somebody may have about those who serve. And I think that those interactions that we have kind of undermine our mental health after the uniform. And you've kind of just
Mhm.
already mentioned it already because we're comparing our service to this stereotype. It makes us utilize resources available to us differently or not utilize them at all. Even other people who have served is your greatest resource. So you can see how these things can really negatively impact your life after the uniform. So I'm all for like refuting them, even in the public square. Hey, look, stop comparing people's military service to whatever you feel like the Hollywood
Mhm.
movie is that you've most recently seen. You have no idea how diverse our ranks are and our experiences are. So please just stop it. This is a silly concept
Mhm.
because it's just putting people into this position of discomfort for no reason.
It is, and I've even got the question of why are veterans still having issues with PTSD? It's not like they're going to combat as much anymore. And that's a very kind of toxic question or narrative to have out there because there's so much more that goes into military training. There's so much more that goes into what our military goes through now that you don't have to go overseas and have something like that to have something traumatic happen to.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, because trauma can, and I did a 3-part trauma series, but trauma can be as simple as surviving a horrific accident. How many, especially in the Navy, we have a ton of work related accidents because, if you're talking about maneuvering around large machinery, there's just a ton of ways in which things that can go awry, especially while you're at sea. But there's training accidents and just car wrecks. There's all kinds of ways in which somebody can engage in or suffer a PTSD index event. But I think largely what people may be misrepresenting is PTSD is just one of the disorders that disproportionately impact the military lifestyle. Depression, anxiety, these are other things that often are comorbid with PTSD, and they may be more pernicious than people really are aware of. Because when you're removing yourself from your entire social network and you're just going off by yourself and you're having to just make surrogate families with your people in the uniform, that process itself is not like we have a way of understanding that or quantifying that or qualifying that. There's just so much to it that's alien about the military lifestyle. So I take a little bit of issue with people who don't have a frame of reference to it, trying to apply their understanding of the military lifestyle, because it is really an alien culture. The military is totally alien.
I always describe it as a culture because it is. They got we had our own language, you had your own mannerisms, rules to follow, uniform, dress, how you do your hair it is really its own culture.
We talk a lot about here as well, just making sure that you're not using the military social script after the uniform, because it can really impede your progress if you're using some of the more social norms and cultural appropriate interactions from the uniform with civilians, because they don't know how to handle it. They really don't have the same script that we do. But that's interesting. So let's talk about this new project that you're working on, because I think it's really cool.
So I am an influencer for Proudly She Served, which means I'm just trying to help them promote this awesome project, which is it's 12 portraits of women veterans from all over, meaning like generation wise.
Right.
And the special things about this is there are some incredible stories with these women, but there's also just regular stories. So representation is pretty much across the board through all branches.
Yeah.
And what this portrait series does is it highlights their stories, and it's going to go around the country and actually stop at like schools and theaters and show especially younger girls in schools what it means to serve, and that's an opportunity for you one day if you would like to serve and really share these stories.
We talk a lot about finding meaning in life after the uniform a lot. And one of the ways that we talk about finding meaning in life after the uniform is not only through connecting with people, but through the creative experience. So I really think that that's a really cool idea, to have this artistic expression that's associated with our military culture. That to me really is a positive thing out there in our environment, so to speak. So when does it kick off? Like, where's the next stop? Where can my listeners check this out? Right.
Sure. So it's actually been put off. It was supposed to start and really kick off, I think, last year, but all the dates are everything on Proudly She Served Instagram.
Okay.
And cool. Any updates with it, I don't know if there's anything really set in stone, because it's hard to do that nowadays, especially with the in-person event. And the kickoff will be in Washington, D.C. I think at the Women's Veteran Museum.
That's
I think it might
awesome.
still be.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's a really cool thing. I definitely recommend everyone to check it out. They can describe it a lot better than me. So,
Right. Okay. Yeah. No. So could you plug that one more time? Where is it?
it's
What's the
at
details for them to find it at?
it is at Proudly She Served on Instagram. They also have a Facebook, so Proudly She Served. They also have a website, they have a blog, YouTube channel, you name it, and they actually do interviews with the women who are
Oh,
represented
fantastic.
in these paintings, which is they're fabulous. I've got to interact with a few of them, and they're so humble and down to earth, and really just all around great people.
Yeah. So I mean, I assume that working with that project has been a pretty meaningful experience for you as well. Then, right?
Yeah, and it's how I came about this opportunity is I do vet chats on my IG, and I did a vet chat reaching out to Proudly She Served because I thought it was an awesome project, and I got to interview Linda Maloney, who is um, one of the leads on this project,
Sure.
and yeah, it was just really inspiring. And she also has a great story herself, but she's not in the series. She's really cool.
Yeah. Well, maybe
Veteran.
you can. Maybe you can connect us after this.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
she'd love to do this.
Sure. So, is there anything else you want to talk about? Is there anything that you want to really promote here? You don't have a book or anything coming out, right? I mean, you seem like you're a pretty busy
No.
lady. No. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to start my season 4 of Vet Chats, which is an Instagram live series, which I do on Sundays at 9. And you will be one of my guests. I'm already putting it out there because
Oh, okay. Okay.
so
Yeah.
then you kind of have to do it so everyone can look for you there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's gonna kick off in January. Hopefully, it's been put off just because I'm in this crazy year of my life, and I need to understand that and kind of
It's
set
not like you had a kid
boundaries.
or something. I mean, come on, right?
Yeah, yeah, and we finally had our wedding too, so I'm kind of coming off the high of, officially being married and then coming back into Christmas season, and it's like it's hard to, you
It's
know how
like
it is.
totally nothing going on. I don't know what you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you know how much effort, like I see how much effort you put into your podcast. It's not something you can just hop on and do. So you have
No,
to,
there is a lot of effort that goes into it to
yeah.
develop this rather poor quality product. But yeah,
No, don't ever say
I'm
that.
kidding. I'm kidding. But so if that's all that we really want to get to today, I do want to say that to stay tuned for the next episode is going to be with Graham, who is a veteran actor who has got some pretty cool things in the works. He's got a couple of movies and TV deals that he's got going on, and we're going to talk a little bit about his life in Hollywood, so to speak, and what it is like to be a veteran within that social sphere.
Whoa.
But if you've enjoyed listening to the conversation that Jenna and I have had, please do us a favor, spread the good word about the things in which we're doing here. I know that we hear a lot about the negative things that are happening within the veteran experience, but as you see here with Jenna, there's a lot of cool things that are happening within the veteran identity. So please help us out, spread the word. If there's any content ideas that you guys would like to see come to fruition here on Vet with a Mic, please reach out to me on all our social media accounts. I'm on all of them, baby, all of them. I got all the platforms. So if you would like to see something happen, just reach out. I'm pretty responsive. Don't get me wrong. There are times in which it may take me an hour or two to get back to you, but I love it. And I love all the support and the feedback you guys give me. But as always, however life finds you, I hope life finds you well. Till next time.